All right, we're going to begin, though, with that big winter storm moving east after dumping heavy snow in the west this weekend.
Yeah, in the mountains of California, more than 4 feet of snow fell, burying cars and closing down roads. High winds caused power outages across Northern California, while further south, that same system brought flooding in Orange County. In fact, one man had to be pulled from the water after a flash flood. But it wasn't just out at west. Snow blanketed parts of the Northeast, leading to dozens of flights being canceled due to weather and leaving many travelers stranded. So let's get the very latest on this powerful storm coming our way. Meteorologist Bill Cairns joins us now. Good morning, Bill.
Hey, good morning, Blaine. Great seeing you at the desk. And Lindsay, of course. On this Monday, we had a weekend full of heavy snow in the west, a little mini system in the northeast, and now we're getting ready to watch this storm going pretty much coast to coast. It's actually going to redevelop off the east coast towards the end of this week. So here's how the map looks this morning. It's not a pretty morning for the early morning commute down the coastline of Southern California. The mountains are getting a little bit of snow. Even Los Angeles is going to deal with rain. And if you've ever driven in LA in the rain, you know what that could be like. So that's going to cause some significant delays during your morning commute. And then the snow plume, the one that dropped the feet of snow over the weekend, that is now heading through the Rockies. So one of the highest totals I've seen was Soda Springs. This is near the Tahoe area. 60 inches of snow. So 5 feet of snow from this storm alone. Other locations were around 3 to 4 feet. Heavenly and Mammoth both about 2.5 feet. Now, what happens from here? Today, we kind of see the storm going through the Intermountain West. Mostly the ski resorts, the high elevations, the Wasatch Range here in Utah, you're getting some snow. Mountains of Colorado will get a little bit. Denver, only 1 to 3 inches for you, so not a huge ordeal by your standards. Then tonight, the storm gets stronger out in the plains. We are going to see a very dangerous and impressive blizzard that's going to last for a couple days. Blizzard warnings are up for areas of Nebraska starting tonight at 11 p.m. all the way till Thursday. So that's going to be a numerous, days here in a row where we're going to have to worry about the people going through all the heavy snow and also on the roads. By the time we watch this storm system getting through Tuesday night, severe weather into Wednesday morning is possible throughout the Gulf Coast, and then the storm system will eventually make its way to the East Coast. So we worry about the blizzard in the plains, and then, of course, we have this enhanced risk. We could be dealing with tornadoes by the time we get through Tuesday evening. So, this storm's not over. By the time it gets here Friday, I'll be done with it. We're going to have like 5-6 days of it. But, yeah, we're going to probably see a nor'easter out of this, too. Not snow in New York or Boston or Philly. It looks like interior sections of the Northeast are going to get their white Christmas.
Not the news anybody wants to hear, Bill, but we know that you will guide us through it. Thanks so much.
All right, health experts in several major cities, including New York, Los Angeles, and Portland, are once again recommending that people mask up as 3 highly contagious respiratory viruses are putting a strain on hospitals this holiday season. The recommendation comes as COVID cases are again on the rise, and flu-related hospitalizations are at their highest rate in a decade. So NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel is here to talk to us more about this latest guidance. Dr. Patel, anecdotally, I've started wearing a mask again in certain places. In what situations are public health experts saying people should wear one?
Lindsay, the best analogy I heard from another professor was that think of a mask as an umbrella. You carry the umbrella with you for exactly the following situation. When you know you're going to go into an indoor crowded space, especially with people you don't know very well, think grocery stores, metro transit, even maybe your place of employment if you have to kind of get to your cubicle or area to work. All those places are opportunities. And don't forget the mask, plus also keeping your hands clean. Flu and RSV can stick around on surfaces for several hours, so it's important to do all of those things.
Do you see a scenario in which in certain high-density areas where there are high rates of transmission, masks could become mandatory again in some places like stores or public transit?
You know, it's hard to imagine that masks will become mandatory anywhere, just given the backlash we've seen both politically and I think people are so fatigued. However, you mentioned those metropolitan areas. Lindsay, it's worth noting that those are because the rates are so high and the hospital systems are so strained that that might be a measure they need to put in place. But I haven't seen anybody really advocate for it. What we're trying to do is what we're doing now, just educating individuals so that, like the umbrella in a rainstorm, or unfortunately with the snow around the country, you're just prepared when you need to be.
Let's talk about holiday gatherings, Doctor. Blaine and I both have little ones at home, and we're looking forward to seeing family for the holiday season. I want to know about you and your behavior. Are you changing anything that you're going to do?
So what I've been doing with any family gatherings, I'm smiling because I've got little ones, and they've had various coughs and colds. What I've been doing since the beginning has been to try to, number one, get home testing. Number two, if you're sick, stay at home. Number 3, try to make sure that even if you're feeling a sniffle or a cold and you can't get tested, that you too could wear a mask while you're in transit and you can keep your holiday loved ones safe.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for all the advice, Dr. Kavita Patel. Appreciate it.
Well, WNBA star Brittney Griner spent her first weekend back on American soil after being detained in Russia for 10 months. And now we're learning new information this morning about her return home to Texas. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson has the very latest.
Hey there, we are getting new images of Brittney Griner's first moments on U.S. soil and learning new details about what that 18-hour plane ride home was like from one of the U.S. officials on board. A new photo, Brittney Griner in her first moments of freedom.
She called everyone over to take photos with her. It shows you the kind of woman that she is.
Posing with wife Sherelle and U.S. Ambassador Roger D. Carsons, who was with her on that 18-hour flight to Texas. Carsons spent months working on the team who negotiated her freedom.
She jumped on the plane and went right to saying hi to everyone, making a personal connection, shaking hands, saying thank you.
Carsons says he thought she'd want some space.
And she said, no, I want to talk. I want to relate to people. And I found someone who was just absolutely wonderful, kind, generous, interesting, and above all, authentic.
As the nation celebrates Griner's return, the exchange of Russian arms dealer Victor Bout for her release continues to face fierce criticism from some Republicans.
The Trump administration was always very clear. We weren't going to trade bad guys for celebrities because it creates the wrong incentives for the bad guys.
The White House says a national security assessment found any risk Bout's release might pose is manageable, and that negotiating Griner's release has shed light on what it could take to get another American held captive in Russia, Paul Whelan, out too, charged with spying, which Whelan and the U.S. have denied.
We're more informed. We have a better sense of the context here, where the Russians' expectations are, and we're just going to keep working at it.
Griner now vows to fight for Whelan and others as she returns to the U.S. with new passion and purpose, and with the U.S. State Department estimating some 50 Americans are still wrongfully detained abroad. Back to you.
Priscilla Thompson, thank you so much for that report.
The clock is ticking on Capitol Hill for lawmakers to reach a deal on a massive government funding package. Congress has until midnight Friday to reach a deal that would avoid a shutdown. But this morning, Democrats and Republicans are still billions of dollars apart on an agreement to keep the government running. For more, we are joined by NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin. Julie, good to see you. What is the latest on where negotiations stand, and what are the sticking points for both sides?
Yeah, Lindsay and Blaine, good morning to you. Look, not just billions, $26 billion apart, and that's where they have been for over a week now. I'm told that's where they continue to be, even after making some progress this weekend. A Senate Democratic aide telling me overnight that negotiators were actually able to inch a little bit closer, just enough to prevent Democratic appropriators in the House and the Senate from actually releasing their own omnibus funding plan and stopgap funding measure as well. Those plans they had at the end of last week to put pressure on their Republican counterparts as they hit stalemates in negotiating this funding bill. Now, this isn't anything new necessarily. In the 3.5 years I've covered Congress, I've seen this time and time again. When you go down to the wire, politics comes to play, and both sides try to get what they can, especially in these last couple of weeks after a midterm election before a new Congress in which Republicans are set to take control of the House. So a lot at play here. We're hoping in the next couple of days that lawmakers are able to figure it out. But one thing is clear, they won't have time to finish writing a full omnibus bill, even if they have an agreement. So even just a short-term continuing resolution to keep them going while they hammer out those final details will be necessary.
Our colleagues at NBC News saying this is essentially the last train to leave the station in this current Congress. Julie, remind us what's at stake here. Are we talking, if the government is forced to shut down, are we talking about public lands closed, federal employees on hiatus? What does this mean?
Yeah, well, the number one thing here is, first of all, this would be a partial government shutdown, which means that everything that's non-discretionary spending essentially would run out of money. And so that means number one thing for people watching is federal employees, non-essential federal employees would be furloughed, would need back pay then when the government does turn its lights back on. Of course, that always causes a headache, no matter how big or small the shutdown is. And it could affect things from air travel to national parks, especially during a time in the holidays when everybody is trying to travel and get back home to their loved ones. This could be a pain for the government, no matter how many days or weeks this shutdown would last. But there's currently no appetite on either side for that.
It's not just Democrats versus Republicans, Julie, in all of this. There's also a divide within the Republican Party. What can you tell us?
Look, after a less than stellar performance during the midterm elections, House Republicans with a very slim majority next Congress are under a lot of pressure. And their leader, Kevin McCarthy, who is in the political fight for his life, essentially for the speakership gavel, is certainly remembering that in the back of his head. And so for him to please his members, for McConnell to please about 10 or so Republicans in the Senate who are urging them to leave this government funding bill up to the next Congress so Republicans can have more of an input, especially when it comes to deficit spending. Republicans, of course, slamming Democrats for spending billions of dollars in the Inflation Reduction Act and other partisan bills that were passed this year. This is all coming down to politics. So we'll see if Leader McConnell, Leader Kevin McCarthy can withstand that political pressure.
You've mentioned politics. The fate of the bill is also linked to an election overhaul measure that's meant to avoid another January 6th. So what's the latest on that front? And is there any talk of separating that measure, trying to pass it separately?
Lindsay, bottom line, there's just no floor time left this Congress for them to be able to pass this bill, the Election Reform Count Act, and other bills that they're trying to include and jam into these bigger packages. When I talked to Senator Susan Collins last week, who's one of the top Republicans on this piece of legislation, she told me the conversations now is that they're very hopeful that this bill will be included in the omnibus funding bill. But again, will there even be an omnibus funding bill is the number one question. And certainly a bill like this to prevent another insurrection, another January 6th from happening again. This is really the last shot that they have to do this because, of course, with Republicans controlling the House, it's not likely it'll pass in that chamber next Congress. And so we're really coming down to the wire, of course, as the January 6th Select Committee in the House is working on their parallel investigation of everything that happened that day.
All right, Julie, I'm sure we'll be talking to you and your Capitol Hill team a lot this week. Thanks so much. Turning now to the latest developments surrounding the January 6th Capitol attack. Opening arguments are set today for the second sedition trial against members of the far-right extremist group, the Oath Keepers.
So joining us, of course, now to break it all down, NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos is joining us now to discuss this. Thank you so much for being here, Danny.
Of course.
I guess the first question is just walk us through what we can expect through this trial, and also walk us through the prosecution's case. How is this going to be different from what we saw in the previous trial?
It's a lot like the previous trial in that these are a number of defendants who are alleged to have been involved in January 6th. The indictment contains plenty of their messages back and forth to each other, which is why in this modern era, the price of using all this technology is that you amass the government's evidence for the government. This is the kind of thing, had they picked up the telephone, most of this evidence wouldn't be in print right there in the indictment. Now, I have to say this, that when it comes to federal prosecutions, they are ultimately a mixed bag. It's hard to say there are winners and there are losers, except for the vast majority of the time the defendant loses in some sense. And here's what I mean. If you look at the last Oath Keepers trial we just had, you might say, oh, that was a resounding victory for the government. After all, some of the defendants are probably going away forever and ever and ever. But when you look at the seditious conspiracy charges, the government only convicted 2 out of the 5 charged with seditious conspiracy. So what does that tell us about seditious conspiracy as a charge? And really, in the end, does anyone care? Does the government care? Because they know that they can get convictions on other things, like in obstructing an official proceeding, which carries a very serious penalty as well. So again, in federal court, these prosecutions, a mixed bag. It's hard to predict what we'll see this time around.
And this seditious conspiracy charge, it is a rare charge. It goes back to the Civil War era. They did get a conviction for 2. You mentioned the acquittal for the 3. What are the challenges in prosecuting a seditious conspiracy case?
It's interesting. Seditious conspiracy actually is a conspiracy that requires more than your traditional conspiracy. You need a particular number of witnesses. But look, conspiracy charges in general are easier to prove for the government. Conspiracy charges really just require evidence of an agreement. And it doesn't need to be a written out, I agree to storm the Capitol, signed me. The government knows that. Juries know that. Courts know that. You just need this circumstantial evidence that there is an agreement among these people. And just like the last Oath Keepers trial, you can look at some of this text message evidence or this other messaging evidence and say, ooh, this looks really, really bad. Or will a juror see this as, hey, these are just some idiots getting together to rally in D.C.? Yeah, they have some pretty harsh rhetoric, but does it rise to the level of a conspiracy to obstruct a proceeding or seditious conspiracy?
And Danny, we're going to move from that to yet another sedition trial starting later this month against the former Proud Boys national chairman. What can you tell us about that, and what should we expect there?
Again, more of the same. The government needs to prove, of course, beyond a reasonable doubt, with the presumption of innocence, that the elements of the sedition have been met. It's not that easy, and if there's any evidence of that, number one, the government rarely brings these charges, because you need to show that somebody is looking to overthrow by force or otherwise obstruct, and I forget the language of the statute, but it is a difficult burden to meet for the government. That's why they don't charge it very often. And lo and behold, in the last trial, I wouldn't say that the government won the majority of their seditious conspiracy charges. They lost most of them. Now, again, who cares if you're on the government side? These people are going away for a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Danny Savalos, lucky as always to have you breaking this down for us. Thanks so much for being here.
Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema's decision to leave the Democratic Party is still sending shockwaves through Washington. Montana Senator Jon Tester joined Meet the Press to discuss that, and former U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara also joined to talk about the prisoner swap that led to Brittney Griner's release. Here's Meet the Press compressed.
All right, so I guess on a scale of 1 to 10, to complete shock, or this is just another day at the office, where do you put the Sinema changing her party affiliation to independent?
Look, I was surprised she made the change, but functionally, I don't think that change is a thing. I think we're going to continue doing the same thing that we were doing, whether she's an independent or part of the Democratic caucus, because she's going to continue to caucus with the Democrats. So we'll still have the committee structures that we've had before, as far as having one more Democrat. And functionally, I don't think it changes a thing. And that's a good thing. So we look forward to working. I look forward to working with her, as I have in the past, to try to get good things done for the country.
I want to talk about that relationship. Look, Arizona Democrats are not happy with her at all. You have a progressive political consultant based in Phoenix, Ian Danley, saying everything she's done has been in service of Kyrsten Sinema. Is that your experience working with her?
No, look, I had a good experience working with Kyrsten on a number of different topics, but especially the bipartisan infrastructure package that we put together with 10 folks, 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, of which I was one of the Democrats, and she was too. We worked hard together, we argued, and we fought, and we came up with a pretty darn good bill. And I think that's the process, Chuck. You know that. Your enemy one day is your friend tomorrow, and vice versa. And it's about keeping relationships in Washington, D.C. if you're going to get things done. And I think that Kyrsten Sinema knows that, and I think whether she's a Democrat or she's a Republican, that really doesn't matter. The label doesn't matter. What matters is you got to have somebody in Washington, D.C. that wants to get things done and move things forward.
Let me start with what you can tell us about Victor Bout. How dangerous of a man is he?
Look, everyone is happy, if you're an American or not an American, that Brittney Griner, who is, I think, unfairly and illegitimately detained in Russia, is back home with her family. We're happy for her. We're happy for her family. At the same time, you might imagine that not as just a general prosecutor, but the prosecutor who oversaw the prosecution and conviction of Victor Bout has a view about how dangerous a person he was. He's, as you said, someone who was convicted at trial by unanimous jury of conspiracy to kill Americans. He was convicted of conspiracy to provide material support to terrorists. He's on tape with confidential informants, planning to sell hundreds of surface-to-air missiles to the FARC, also sell 30,000 AK-47s to the FARC for the stated purpose of shooting down American helicopters in Colombia. So he's a dangerous man then. I don't know how dangerous he is now,
right.
But I think people of good faith can, in good faith, ask questions and be concerned about it, even when we're very, very happy that Brittney Griner is back in the U.S.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.